okay? I don't want to give it away, but look, really gets you up. Really gets you excited and interested in the book, you know what I'm saying? So that's just me. Hi, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Cozy Little Book Club. I'm your host, Taylor, and you might see Boo, or if you don't see him, you will definitely hear him. He has made it very clear that he doesn't care if I'm recording or not. He wants to eat, even though he just ate 15 minutes ago. Cat life. Anyway, I'm so excited that you're here for another episode, and I'm really excited to talk about this week's book. That book is, drumroll please, A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. You are definitely in for a treat. So first, let me just say that this is a delicious read. An edible masterpiece, and might I add, easily digestible. If you didn't know, I am using all food adjectives to describe this book because that's what largely it's about. Kind of. Let's say it's about the desire of food and the craving of it. Yeah. And before I start into the summary, I also want to say shout out to whoever made the TikTok that then made it onto Pinterest that I saw that pretty much recommended me the book. I was already interested in the one-liner, but I was even more interested because of the book cover. Anyone who knows me knows that I love the museums. And the book cover looks like a piece of art that I would immediately stop in front of and ponder on. So here is the book cover. Bam! A Certain Hunger. It's a lady holding a bleeding heart. I love it. I am kind of into morbid things. That's what I'm saying, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of gross, but yeah, I love it. So yeah, this is a pretty cool book cover. Shout out to the library. Yes. Okay, let's get into what the book is actually about. Essentially, it's about a food critic in New York City who loves to write about food and also likes to kill and eat her lovers. Yeah, it's exciting. It's already interesting, right? You're already like, what? I know. Just you wait. I do want to note that some parts of this book may be triggering for some people, so I do want to say to exercise caution before reading it. I'm not going to tell you, obviously, I'm a talker, but I'm not going to tell you about the whole book plot, but I think that this is a pretty good summary without giving away too much. Dorothy Daniels is a middle-aged food critic living in New York City. To the people around her, they pretty much think that she's pretty normal, or maybe I would even say above normal. I mean, she's loaded. She's got money from book deals and her being a food critic. She hangs around very elite people, and she's what you would call someone who is very well cultured. That's one part of her for sure. But underneath all of that, she's got some secrets. A lot of secrets, big secrets, as you can imagine. Ultimately, she lives a double life. One where she is a very celebrated and highly sought after food critic, and the other where she is an international killer. And I don't want to give away a spoiler, but I will say that her first murder was an accident. Kinda. So she didn't just start off on a spree just being demented. She got there by accident. And then her bloodlust grew. But anyway, I won't give anything else away. So throughout the story, we learn more about Dorothy's background, her family, how her childhood was, how she grew up, and all the relationships that she's dealt with or been a part of, and ultimately how that made her into the psychopath that she is today. Go figure. Life. Without giving too much away, I do want to say that parts of the story are written from the perspective of Dorothy reflecting, and then we also see Dorothy in action. And she's cooking amazingly delicious meals in between. I'm serious, like, I don't even eat meat anymore, and her talking about a duck confit in the way that she did made me want to try a little bit of duck confit. So my girl knows what she's talking about. She crazy, but she know how to cook, okay? And if she don't know how to cook, She sure know how to write about cooking, okay? And she know how to describe the juiciness of the food. I love it. And over time, we see how her perfectly seeming life really begins to unravel and how that affects her and how she gets even more crazier because of it. I would say that the themes of this book are definitely rooted in power, dominance, and desire and craving, and just ultimately being greedy, because that's what she was. She was very greedy. Sound like a psychopath. There were a lot of things that I liked about this book and very few that I didn't. I'll be honest, within the first few pages, I thought the book was very pretentious. They just threw, to me, I just thought that they threw in a bunch of different words that I had to Google constantly, and it was kind of annoying. I don't want to say tiring, but it was kind of annoying, to be honest. I'm like, what is this word? What is this word? Which is not a problem. For me, reading is another way to expand my vocabulary. So I wasn't upset about that. I just found it to be annoying, and that I could not just get through a paragraph without having to like, what does this word mean? That was a little bit annoying to me at first, but I just felt like, damn, these are like real Scrabble words that I could really win the game with. So I did write some of them down, if I'm being honest. Yes, but it was annoying at first. When you first started reading a book, you want to be, I don't know about everybody else, I'm not a slow burn kind of book reader, but I definitely wanted her to get to the point where I was interested. And I was quickly interested, let me say that. While I had to dissect my way through all these words, the story was good already from the beginning, okay? I don't want to give it away, but look, really gets you up. really gets you excited and interested in the book, you know what I'm saying? So that's just me. And just to be honest, what else would you expect from a food critic? In order for you to be interested in the food, they have to describe it using very interesting and engaging words you may not know, but will keep you intrigued nonetheless. So after a while, I just kind of let it go and just kept enjoying the book. I loved that all the chapters were named after food. I would say reading this book, I was pretty hungry. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of the food I cannot eat. She definitely laughed at vegans, and I get it because she's a food critic. What kind of food critic would subject themselves to not eating all the food? So I get it, but the food sounded amazing. And also with learning about the various words and the different descriptors for the food, I learned a lot about the food industry in the process of how food is brought from pasture to table. If they're even in a pasture, sad enough. I thought that was a really interesting process. There was an interesting part about learning about the difference between kosher meat and non-kosher meat. I thought that while it was maybe a little bit too descriptive for some people, I thought it was really legit and interesting on talking about how that food process looks like without actually seeing it. Again, shout out to Chelsea G. Summers, because she know how to describe something, okay? She knows. This book was also really funny. I thought there were times where I would be bogged down by the murder part, but it would immediately pick back up with some funny zinger. Dorothy is very witty, and for me, I love people like that. So reading her was really fun to do. I really enjoyed learning more about her thought processes and just what she thought was okay and what wasn't. And for a psychopath, I will say that she knows what is right and wrong, but just because she is a psychopath, she's just like, I don't really care. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. So that brings me to my next thing. This book has been said that it's a feminist book, and I can definitely see some of those themes. Dorothy Daniels is a white 51-year-old woman. I am a young black woman. We have completely different lives off bat. And I just think that some of the feminist themes that people would claim were there, I thought were a bit stretched, in my opinion. I say all that to say that I did like some of her analysis of what being feminine meant to her. I want to emphasize that I liked her thoughts of what feminism was to her. I don't necessarily agree with it. One of the things I actually did write was when she was basically talking about she was reflecting on her high school years and being a young girl, growing up into a teenager, and then eventually a young adult and things of that nature. But she really talked about one of the things that really was interesting to me. I don't want to give it away, but at one point she compared being a girl to being junk food. And I actually did write it down, so let me look it up. She said, being a female, femininity is junk.
I didn't realize while editing that I cut off the full quote, but the full quote is, junk food was rebellion. Rebellion was femininity. Femininity was junk. But anyway, back to the podcast.
I know that I did not give the whole sentence. I just feel like if I gave the whole sentence, it would give some parts of the book away. And it's really hard because I really liked that. I thought it was an interesting analysis for her perspective of what being feminine meant to her. I just want to really reiterate that. I do not necessarily agree with that, but I thought it was interesting to see really more of her, again, a look into her psyche and a look into what makes her her and what makes her a psychopath. Let's not ever forget that. This lady is a psychopath. I never want to forget that because some of her things, it was like, okay, that's actually not a bad idea, but she's crazy. We are rational human beings. I also want to say that Dorothy be getting it in. She has a lot of sex. Pound town. Like, she's not f***ing around. This could be good or bad depending on your perspective, but for me, it was very interesting for me as a Black woman in America, seeing this white woman with a very Ivy League degree and all the resources in her favor. Felt like she needed to sleep around to get to where she is and her success. And I do want to say that, look, I'm not here to police anybody on what they want to do with their vagina. Do what you want to do. Your vagina, whatever genitals you got, I don't care. I just think that in this book particularly, I don't think that she needed to bang everybody to get to the top because she had a lot of resources to get to the top anyway. She probably would have been definitely successful given the time period it was written in or it was based in and who she was and what she did. I think she would have been fine. But it definitely made the book more spicy, so I'm not even gonna criticize that. I thought it was interesting. Yeah, I thought it was interesting. First of all, I'm here for everybody doing their thing and having a great time. I only mention that because people have claimed this as a feminist book. I don't even know if Chelsea G. Summers also says it's a feminist book. It might be, in her words, I'm not sure. But either way, I say that to say because I think that a lot of times, I'll just be frank, people who are not white, a lot of times think of feminism as a bad word and has a negative connotation. And I can understand that given the history of it all. As you read this, you can see Dorothy's ravenous desire to have dominance, power, and just ultimately control. She is the head honcho, and if you don't like it, she's not here to mess around. I say all those things together. Sometimes the book gave me pause because of the very interesting historical facts and facets of feminism that has been traditionally just super white. It just made me think about it. I don't say that the book is bad because of this. I just think it makes me, and I feel it might have made other readers feel interesting about it. I don't know what the actual feeling is. It just made me think, is what I would say. I still have other things that I really liked about the book. I really liked the fact that Dorothy was a 51-year-old woman. And I think that maybe this is just the book that I've read, but I feel as if a lot of times the books that I have read, the protagonist is younger. And it's just cool, even though I'm nowhere near 51. I just think it's cool that she got her shine. And not only did she get her shine, she was a badass. Even though she crazy, she was a badass. And she did a lot of cool stuff throughout her life. And it was really cool to see and hear. I say see and hear. It was a book. It was really cool to read about these many different things that she was accomplishing in her day and age. So shout out to Dorothy, crazy ass. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my girl. Free her. I'm just kidding. Yeah. Am I? Aside from actually being a murderer, Dorothy was very likable to me. Some people might be like, gosh, she's batshit crazy. I thought she was very honest, very open about what she wanted, very relentless, which can be a good or a bad thing. And she definitely knows how to finesse something, okay? And if you were ever one of those people, I'm really just speaking to the girls right now. If you were ever one of those girls who wanted, like, who had a friend who knew how to get all the information, they ain't got nothing on Dorothy in the 90s. She was getting all the tea. So you really don't want to mess with her. So don't piss her off. Again, that's that need and that desire to have control and power. She crazy, but we like her. She's fun. She crazy as hell, but she fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, hashtag balance. If she wasn't a food critic, I would have definitely said she would have done great as some kind of crime investigator, which is kind of full circle and funny in its own way. I don't know if everybody is as deep of a thinker as me. Sometimes I call myself an overthinker because that is the truth and I can really get in the weeds. But I will say that this book made me think a lot about the power of free will. So I had a conversation with a friend a couple weeks ago about, you know, people having the great parents or a great childhood and things like that. And you can still just hard left and just be like, this is my life. I'm gonna do whatever I want to do, which is not a bad thing unless you're harming people, in which Dorothy did. Murdering them. But I just say all that to say that it made me think, because everybody has ups and downs in life. That is just literally how life goes. Like, that's just a part of it. And with Dorothy, in my opinion, I didn't think that her childhood was necessarily super awful. She definitely had her shitty parents, and that can affect you in a lot of ways. But her, in comparison to her siblings, they definitely varied greatly. And so with that, it just makes me think about free will. If you have a great family, a great foundation, or a shitty family and a shitty foundation, you really could go either way. You might want to just be better than how your family treated you, or you might want to just be like, you know what, I don't care how good they raised me, I'm just gonna be a murderer. I'm not saying that's exactly what happened. She definitely had a rough childhood in some aspects. I mean, on her deathbed, her mama told her she was not the favorite. So you could probably imagine what that was like growing up. But yeah, it wasn't easy for her, but it just made me think about the sheer force of free will and how you could really just turn some shit up if you really wanted to or not. And as you're reading this, you may feel as if she had a very privileged life, which she did. I'm not going to deny that in any way. She definitely did. I think she grew up in Connecticut. Like, come on. Not that all of Connecticut is great, but yeah, she described her house as like a cookie cutter. You know what I'm saying? Like, you didn't have, I don't know. I'm just saying, to some people, she might have came off as well off and privileged. And it's just crazy to think that here's this one person who was this really Ivy League, high functioning, very well performing woman who is still very high functioning, still very incredibly smart, but crazy as hell and killing people, and how your life ends up like that. It's just a really interesting look at the human mind and what we deem as traumatic, or how we respond to things, I should say, more than traumatic. But it is really interesting nonetheless. And I'll say my last thing that I didn't like was that the fact that there was a actual glimpse of joy from Dorothy, which was really nice to see, even though I did like how cynical and conniving she was as a character, and funny as hell. But it was nice to see her having joy. But I can't really explain why it was so brief, because that would be giving a very important part of the story away. But I just thought it was super brief, and I just thought it was kind of sad that she didn't. I guess ultimately it's not really a critique on the book itself. It's just sad that how it came to be, that this flash of joy was just so quick like that, and she just didn't relish in it. So, yeah, all I would say with that is, once a bad girl, always a bad girl. I mean, or not. Maybe you can be a reformed bad girl. I don't know. But All in all, I really enjoyed this book, and I would give it a whopping 4 out of 5 golden bookmarks. I think it was brilliant. I think it was really interesting. I thought it was also surprisingly educational. I don't know if that was the thought process behind some of the ways that they went about it, but I thought it was really good and really, really interesting. I loved expanding my vocabulary, laughing maniacally, and then being with my eyes like, oh shit. Because it really takes you on a ride. And I really enjoyed that as someone who is reading for fun. I want to be on a thrilling and exciting story adventure. And that's what I got. And if you know of any other kind of comedic crime thrillers, crime dramas, I'm not exactly sure what genre you would put that in, but whatever that genre is, like, please recommend me another book because I devoured that one. And I'm ready to read some more, so I'm really excited. And just like that, that wraps up another episode of the Cozy Little Book Club. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you made it to the end, please leave a little emoji with a stack of books, or quite frankly, a little emoji of Boo, a little orange cat. That'd be real cute. Meow. And if you've read the book, please leave a comment letting me know what you did or didn't like, if you thought I was completely wrong, my thoughts about it. Although, again, these are my opinions, and I respect yours, and I hope that you respect mine. And before you go, be sure to hit that subscribe button and stick around because we will be having a new episode every week. Thank you again for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you next week. And remember, when you open a book, you open your mind. Peace.